I'm sure that West Ham fans are feeling a sense of frustration at the moment as to why we've not added to the two signings that we recently made. For fans who care to remember, it will come as no surprise to see our transfer activity delayed yet again. This has happened as far back as I can remember. We always have an early flurry, well, if you can call it an early flurry of activity with the signings of Malick Diouf and Carl Walker-Peters, and then it's all gone quiet, just as happened last summer and the summer before that and the summer before that. And then I'm sure you know what's going to happen. There's going to be a flurry of transfer activity just before the transfer window shuts, and we end up doing what would seem like a bit of rushed business. Now, for me, and probably many other West Ham fans, I believe we need at least, three more players to build a stronger squad to the one we have already. And I'll explain in a moment as to who those latest players are that we're linked to. Now, look, if you're new to the channel or if you've watched me before but you've yet to subscribe, what's the delay? Do subscribe. It costs nothing to subscribe. All the content is free. And please do hit the like button after the show has ended. Now, ironically, despite seeing 9 players leaving this summer, we've almost as big a squad as to what we had at the end of last season. How so? Let's remind ourselves who's departed. Fabianski, Creswell, Soufal, Zuma, Ings, Antonio, plus Ferguson, and Soler, and Kudus. Now, of those 9 players, I know Zuma wasn't part of last season's squad anyway, so we really only have to replace 8 players in total. And we've done most of that already with the arrivals of Malick Diouf, Carl Walker-Peters, Agerd, Potts and Cornet. We've got 5 of the 8 we need. Look, apart from Potts, who I think is nailed on to be part of the senior squad this coming season, we also are being able to see what our academy players are offering. We've got Caelan Casey, George Earthy, Lewis Orford, Preston Fearon, and Cullen Marshall, all looking to impress. But my gut tells me that of all those academy players, it's kind of going to be at this moment in time Potts, who I think is going to be the next academy player to break through into the senior squad for this coming season. However, with 3 spaces available, it makes every sense that we're targeting a player to replace Fabianski, a player to replace Kudus, and a striker to replace Ings and Antonio. Now, the leading contenders for 2 of those 3 spots are still Mads Hermansen of Leicester City and Callum Wilson, who is now a free agent. And we may see a move for Hermansen imminently, as Leicester confirmed the signing of veteran keeper Asmir Begovic. So for the keeper, it could mean just merely the delay was all about Leicester finding a replacement, which they've now done. As for Wilson, I'm not sure what the delay is. It could be saved maybe for the fact that he actually doesn't like the deal that's been offered, which is, from what I understand, a small basic, and 90% of his income will be reliant on a pay-as-you-go, pay-as-you-play basis, which I assume means, every time he's on the pitch, every time he starts, every time he comes on as a sub, every time he scores a goal, etc., then he gets a bonus on top of a basic salary. Now, the senior source that said this went even further to suggest that his agent, Will Salthouse, will be getting nothing from this deal unless Wilson makes a big contribution to West Ham. Hey, I'm just a messenger. As far as attacking midfield is concerned, it's difficult to keep up with all name after name that we keep being linked to. Excuse me. And maybe the delay in signing anyone might be more to do with Potter just confirming what he has available to him before making a move. Now, the latest in the long line of attacking midfielders is Arsenal's Fabio Vieira. Kind of did wrap my brain on, do I remember him? I think I did. Arsenal paid 35 million euros for the player back in 2022, and he was on a 5-year deal. In his first season, he made 33 appearances across all competitions, scoring 2 goals with 6 assists. His second season was riddled with injuries, where he missed a huge chunk of the season, having to go groin surgery. When he returned, he was mainly an unused sub. That led to Mikel Arteta deciding to loan him back out to the club he bought him from, Porto, where he made last season 42 appearances, scoring 5 goals with 6 assists. So he's kind of got some of his form back. He's a versatile player who's comfortable playing in a central role, central attacking role, and out wide on the right. Now, with his loan spell ending, Porto seem unable to afford to keep the player on a permanent basis. So Arsenal have got a decision to make. Send him back out on loan, keep him and integrate him into their squad, or sell him, taking a hit on what they originally paid. He's currently valued at around £20 million. Now, the price range will be within West Ham's reach. His age is good, 25 years of age, but is he the type of player that fits into the Graham Potter, Carl McCauley mantra of transfer strategies? Look, I'm hung up on, perhaps too much so, I'm hung up on what Potter and McCauley are trying to do at West Ham. If you recall, Potter stated that he wants to reduce the size of the squad. He wants to not have overpaid players sitting on the bench and to also reduce the average age of the squad. So as it stands, we've got 3 less senior players in the squad than we did at the end of last season. We have moved on 5 players who are on high wages, especially Danny Ings on 125 grand a week. And plus the players that have gone, the players that have gone at this stage, the average age of those players that have left, who have departed, is 32. The average age of the players that have come back in is 25. So far, so good. But now it's down to what happens between now and the end of the transfer window that matters. As I've said, I believe we need 3 more players. Therefore, the players we get in have to fit a certain criteria of age, of their value, plus what they're currently on in terms of wages, etc. Now, Vieira, for example, as I said, is valued at £20 million. He's on about 45 grand a week, and he's 25 years of age, which I would say is probably on the cusp of what Potter and McCauley might deem about right for the squad. Ideally, they continue to look for younger, maybe slightly cheaper players, which is why the links to the likes of James McAtee, Harvey Elliott, FC Bruges midfielder Ardon Jajari are all wonderful players, and who will all add great value to the squad. But despite being the right age, I dare say they're currently on pretty high salaries. Well, maybe Jashari isn't at Club Bruges, but certainly McAtee and Elliott are probably on high wages at where they are at the moment. And also the price tag is probably too far a stretch for West Ham. Look, Nottingham Forest had a bid turned down, a £25 million bid turned down for McAtee. So you can see the direction Man City are going. They're probably looking at 35 million pounds to get McAtee to sell McAtee. As for Liverpool, they continue to suggest, or it's been suggested, that they won't entertain anything less than £40 million for Harvey Elliott. And AC Milan are struggling to agree a price for Jashari, where their latest bid of around 33 million euros, plus 4 million euros in add-ons, has again been rejected by Club Bruges, as they're seeking the magical 40 million euro mark to allow the player to leave. And then, of course, there's a slightly older, more experienced player in Douglas Luiz, who wants out of Juve. But again, the Italian club will be looking to recoup as much of their outlay as possible, with, again, that price tag of around 40 million euros being suggested. But I guess if West Ham want a decent enough attacking midfielder, then maybe who's going to deliver in the Premier League, then that's probably the going rate. 38 million pounds, 40 million euros. Or they opt for a player that none of us have heard of yet, someone completely left field, which could be a bit of a punt, much like the Malick Diouf signing. Get a midfielder in for 15 to 20 million pounds, maybe less of a star now, but maybe a star of the future who will have good sell-on value, who might double his value if everything goes well. And that's why perhaps we're back in, the rumours are back in, or the rumours are that we're back in for Southampton's 21-year-old midfielder, Matthias Fernandes. Now, he joined Southampton last summer in a £13 million deal from Sporting after making just 10 appearances for the Portuguese club. Now, he developed through their youth club, through their youth academy, and he's a Portuguese under-21 international. But in those 10 appearances, he scored just the one goal and one assist. But Southampton still saw fit to sign him, where he made 42 appearances last season, scoring 3 goals with 6 assists, which is all right for a young up-and-coming player in the Premier League. Now, it's suggested that he's now valued at around 20 to 25 million pounds, which could see a decent return on Southampton's investment. But whether Southampton want to sell the player or not is a completely different matter. Now, I remember previewing the player when he played against us for Southampton last season. Tidy, forward-thinking, but he didn't really do that much to impress me, but you could see that there was some talent there. However, with a Premier League season under his belt, he can certainly develop even further at a club like West Ham. But is he the finished article? Well, he makes, that maybe that's the difference between paying, like I said, for someone around 35, 40 million pounds and paying for someone who's around 20 to 25 million pounds. The finished article is likely to be the more expensive player. Anyway, with the likelihood of Callum Wilson, Mads Hermansen, and maybe a midfielder on the delay, as I've asked, why the delay? Now, I've already explained. Leicester have been waiting to sign a replacement, and with Begovic in, we should see Hermansen joining West Ham sometime this week. For Wilson, maybe, as I've already said, maybe he thinks that he could get a better offer on the table. A bit like Antonio thought. Now, Antonio did say that he had better deals, but he's yet to take one of those up. And for midfield, I'd like to think that it's because Potter is still assessing what he has available to him in the squad right now. Now, that's a lame excuse, I know, because even as I hear myself saying it, even I don't really believe that. He knows what he has available. And apart from the players who've only joined him this season, like returning from loan spells or academy players, etc., he knows exactly what the rest of the senior squad can and can't deliver. But maybe it's what I've now been saying for a few weeks. It's because maybe we simply can't get rid of any of the players in the current squad to make way for other players to come in. As I stated the other day, look, I mentioned, by the way, we've only 3 players short of the senior squad size that we had last season. Potter has said he wants a smaller squad. If we get a goalie, if we get a striker, and we get an attacking midfielder in, that's exactly the same size as the squad we had last season, and he wants a smaller one. As I stated the other day, we've been expecting bids for a whole host of West Ham players, and this has yet to happen, if it's going to happen at all. I'm sure you've all got your own list of players who you'd like to see go, and I'm sure some of you may include a Gerd, Areola, Mavropanos, Ward-Prowse, Alvarez, Rodriguez, and Cornet on that list. But offering a player for sale and getting clubs to buy a player is 2 very different things and could be worlds apart. Apparently, we're still talking to Genoa about loaning out Cornet. But yet again, just like they wanted last season, they want us to pay a big percentage of his 55 grand a week salary. Now, we did that last season with the Gerd and with Cornet. And to be honest with you, we just can't afford to do that. Much better to have them in the squad and maybe utilize them at some point rather than paying their wages for them to play elsewhere. So whilst I'm sure we will get a goalie, and whilst I'm sure we'll get a striker and an attacking midfielder of some sort, maybe Potter is still looking at what is available to him, especially in the attacking midfield and the striker options. And with fans, would they be happier to see our own players break through the academy rather than dipping into the transfer market for those 2 positions? It's food for thought, because if these 2 players can continue to impress during pre-season, should we be going out to buy other players? I don't know. I'll leave you to decide. Thank you for watching and listening. Like I said, please do subscribe to the channel. Please do hit the like button, and I'll see you all again very soon.